Hi, guys. Welcome to a new episode of the AW Confidential podcast. Today's guest was named on People Espanol Magazine's Latinx Authors to be excited about in 2023. She has written an impressive list of books that I can't name them all because it is a long list, but they include Mestiza Blood, Alien Vasquez, Queen of Cicadas, and most recently, The Haunting of Alejandra. Welcome, V. Castro. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm awesome. Thank you so much. Happy spring equinox.
Yes,
Yes, we're
that's
heading
right.
into
That's right.
spring.
Yes, happy spring, finally. I
I
know it's
know, I know. Yeah, I'm doing great.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and congratulations on all your wins. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I have to ask. This is my first question because I'm curious. So I'm a writer. I have my one book and I'm actually more than halfway through my second. You write what? Like a book a year or
More than
more? More
that.
than that.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Because you're also a mom, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I
Please
have three
tell us your
children.
secret. Wait, three?
Oh God,
Okay.
yes. A lot of books I've been writing for a while, and I think they've kind of all built up. And then it's like once I got the first publishing deal, and then the agent, I kind of was able to put more out. But also, this is my full-time thing, and I just love it. And I have a lot of ideas, so it just comes out. It just flows.
I
Um,
love you're in the flow.
I'm
Hearing
in the
that.
flow, and I'm currently writing something on a really, really tight deadline. And I just have to like plow through. You just have to say, right, I got to do this, I got to do this. But it's fun. It's so fun. And I'm so grateful that I can do this, and I've had the opportunities extended to me to do it. So, yeah, I mean, when you love something and it's in your soul, you just make it happen.
Do
And
you ever get that writer's block?
if I ever do get block or I have like 10 different things on the go, so I will just skip around.
Ah, okay, that's the
Yeah,
trick. You
I
can't just
skip
focus on
around.
that one. You have to skip around. Okay,
I
that's a
skip
good tip.
around.
That's a
Yeah,
good
I
tip.
skip around either to a short story or to another novel, or if I have
Ah,
something else that's come in. So yeah, I take writer's block in stride. I don't take it too seriously. I have to say it'll pass and move on and do something else. Otherwise, if you focus on it and you stress about it, it's just going to get worse.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Now, one of the things that I found absolutely awesome is that there's so many genres that you can choose from. And you chose to write horror. And as a woman, I mean, where did how did it start? Because I feel that to write horror, you have to go to a different place mentally.
No, absolutely. I think, like growing up Mexican American, I had lots of urban legends, a lot of folklore, you know, the history of Mexico and my ancestors is a horror. It's a real horror. And so growing up with all these kind of things swimming in my head, um, I was just fascinated. And I've always been into darker um, literature. And I just have an overactive imagination
Right.
ever since I was a kid. And I think you can also delve into those issues that you deal with as a woman of color, as a person of color, um, as a person of multiple identities, being Mexican and American. Horror lends itself to that. You can really touch on subjects that you wouldn't necessarily touch on in a rom-com or that are too serious or dark or heavy. You can get into those and still be entertaining, also touch people, connect with people, and reveal part of yourself. And I think that's really important. Um, and I try to do that with all my books is reveal something about me, about my culture.
You beat
Um,
me to that question.
oh,
You beat me to the question.
oh, sorry.
Um, so no, it's okay. So, I think just generally the expectation is for us as women to be soft, sort of, that damsel in distress. And, it's not realistic, but we tend to gravitate towards romance just in general. But then we forget that there are authors like Mary Shelley, who wrote, or I believe she wrote Frankenstein, and
Mhm.
then Anne Rice, who wrote the infamous Interview with a Vampire. And they carved the path for this new generation of writers for this genre. So as a Latinx author yourself, like you mentioned, you have drawn from Mexican folklore and urban legends of Texas to help you create your stories. Can you share a bit about this newest character, Alejandra, in The Haunting of Alejandra? Like, how did, what inspired that book?
Yeah, I grew up with La Llorona. A lot of people grow up with like this tale of La Llorona, the woman who
Yes,
drowned her kid, killed her kids, then killed herself. And it's like at the same time you grow up with this notion that motherhood is the pinnacle of identity, being a good mother, being self-sacrificing, being everything to everyone and asking as little as possible, being as amicable and sweet as possible. Um,
tolerant.
and yes, yes. And, I always wondered, well, what would drive a woman to do that? And, I've watched true crime and we've heard of stories of women doing such things, right? There's always some story. Um, and I went through a period of my life where things were not right. I had my third child. Um, and I lost all sense of who I was, what I was doing. I was a stay-at-home mom. And I had been writing for a while then, but I knew I wanted more. And I just, through my grief, through my pain, through trying to find myself, trying to understand why I made all the mistakes in my life, not my children, but other
Of
things,
course.
uh, um, why they happened. And so through all of that self-exploration, spiritual awakening, um, meditation, getting more into brujeria. I just wrote the book. It just flew out of me during the
Mm.
pandemic.
Oh.
Well, what else was I going to do? Uh,
Exactly. What a
so, and, um, and so, yeah, the book came out, the book was there and I sent it out. And, so it is a combination of talking about motherhood, mental health, generational trauma, generational curses. My mom was abandoned as a child.
Mm.
My her grandmother, my great grandmother, took care of the six kids. And even before then, she had her five kids at a very young age. And I just wanted to know where did this all begin? And I thought about La Llorona because I was crying a lot. I was in a lot of pain. And and I just wanted to mix all of it. I wanted to say to women of color that, especially women of color, your mental health is important. To all women, to all parents, not just mothers, your mental health is important. And you
Oh.
can put yourself first without feeling guilty.
Was there any particular topic that you sort of second guessed yourself? Um, I think one of my challenges as a writer is, sometimes, for example, this book that I'm writing, it's very different because a memoir is different from, when you take fiction and you just make it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Was there, but I find that there are certain topics that I'm sort of, as a female, like, oh, should I go there? Should I not? Is it, it's challenging. It's almost like an inner struggle. Did you go through that in your process?
From the very first book I ever wrote, I just let it all out.
Oh, I
I
love that.
just go everywhere. I
I love
don't
it.
think anything is taboo. I want to go for the jugular. I want
I
blood
love it.
sprayed everywhere. I want everybody to see the mess, to feel it, to hear it, to experience it. because it is in that there's catharsis, that we can better understand each other, that also there could be someone out there that needs to hear that story, that needs to read those words. And like in Goddess of Filth, in the very beginning, it's dedicated to all those women, all you women out there, you are not alone. And that was my dedication to Goddess of Filth in the very beginning. And for the Haunting of Alejandra, again, I wanted to touch on that. And so in the very beginning, I take a quote from one of the characters later, and it says, "We must listen to the women who came before us. We change the future by unloading the sorrow of the past. We sever the cord of generational curses. Some cords are meant to shrivel to blackened dead flesh. They are our blood, but we are not them. We do not have to accept it, none of it." And that's Flor Castillo, a Soldadera and Mother, 1919. And a lot of us women of color, our women, the women before us had really exceptionally hard lives. And I feel like we need to acknowledge that.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That was powerful. And it's something that all of us can connect with. I know I did. I mean, yo soy llorona. So I'm like,
Yes.
let me just wipe. I can feel the tears coming.
Oh, making her cry. No.
So one of the things that you mentioned, and I actually did hear you say in an interview, you and I believe this to my core. I find that many of my characters have a little piece of me, and you have mentioned that as well.
Yes.
Now, the on the other side of that, I also feel that I have learned something from every one of my characters. So my question is, what is one surprising thing you have learned about yourself while writing these horror stories, which can be very intense?
Yes.
What's that one surprising thing you have learned about yourself?
That I am capable of doing more than I ever imagined in my life.
Ah, I love that. I love that. Yes, empowering, empowering.
Mm.
Now, as writers, I find that I know I read a lot, and I read to just find different perspectives, open my mind, challenge my vocabulary. But I know that tend to choose the same genre over and over again. So, for women, including myself, who may be intimidated by this genre of horror, can you offer your best pitch and tell us why we should read The Haunting of Alejandra?
You should read The Haunting of Alejandra because it is very much women's fiction. And yes, it does have elements of horror, and it is creepy, and there is a little blood. However, the bigger story is about self-love. It's about family. It is about finding who you are, and inevitably, um, personal empowerment. This is a personal empowerment book, and also how to sometimes surrender and to let go. And in that moment, in those moments when you feel all is lost, that's where you find your path. And that's why you should read it.
Ah, okay. You convinced me. You convinced
Oh,
me.
thank you.
And I connected with what you just said. I think when we let go of everything, that is, to me, that is true freedom.
Yes.
So congratulations for being able to do that and inspiring other women to do the same.
Thank you.
Uh,
I think it was, oh, sorry. I think it was Nina Simone who said, freedom to me is no fear, not having any fear. I remember
I'm gonna
seeing,
look that up. I'm gonna look that up.
I think it was Nina Simone, and I love Nina Simone, and she was fearless when she was on stage, and,
Her
she's
music.
just, and yeah, it's amazing. I think that was
I'm gonna
hers.
look that up. I'm gonna borrow that one. I'm gonna look up that quote. V, thank you so, so much for being here today.
Oh,
I
thank you
know
for having me.
as an author, as a woman, I am inspired by you, and I am going to finish that second book and be fearless. So thank you for
Yes, you can
inspiring
do
me.
this.
Thank you so much. Can you please
Thank you.
share with our listeners how they can find out more about you and your books?
Yeah, so Twitter and Instagram, V Latina London. I am on TikTok. I'm just going to check my handle on TikTok. V Castro Books on TikTok. V Castro Stories for my website, and I sell a lot of Latinx horror merch and my book merch at La Muerte Market. So all of that is where you can find me.
Congratulations and thank you again for being with
Thank
us today.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for listening to this empowering episode with V. Castro of the AW Confidential Podcast. Talk to you soon.
Bye.